Welcome to Inspired Artist Podcast with me, Porter Singer. In this episode, I get to speak with Ashana, aka Sound of Ashana. Ashana weaves together soaring angelic vocals and the celestial sound of crystal singing bowls. She's one of the premier healing music artists of our time. In fact, her original sound pioneered an entirely new genre of healing music with crystal singing bowls. If you haven't been to one of her live concerts where she brings out all these gorgeous bowls, I mean, not just gorgeous visually, but gorgeous in the richness of the sound, I can't give you that experience here, unfortunately, but I have, and let me tell you, it is quite something to behold. I've also had the pleasure of singing with her while she did crystal bowls, and the power of that experience really has never left me. It really got me thinking about the power of these bowls to amplify energy in a way that I hadn't ever really experienced before. So we talk about a lot of things in this episode, and one of my favorite topics that we covered was just the principle of aging and how she sees aging. I thought that was really beautiful to get to hear her experience of it and her philosophy on it. So I hope that this one's really inspiring for y'all, and let's just get into it. Here we go. Well, hello.
Totally took me off guard.
Forgot I was here.
I was just clicking on the screen that just like we're recording. I'm like, got it. Okay. Like,
oh, right. Oh, yeah, she's very helpful. She lets you know when the Zoom lady lets us know when it's being recorded now.
Exactly, it does. You can try that again.
All right, we will. Okay, although I thought that was a very funny intro, actually.
Keep it if you want.
I kind of liked it. Okay, I'm gonna let it go. So welcome again. This is our second time chatting on the podcast. Not our second time chatting ever, but our second time chatting on the podcast. So it's lovely to have you back. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Thank you, Porter. I'm so glad that you invited me and welcoming me back into your space.
Yeah, you have what I would describe as like a mermaid tail sweater on right now. It is so awesome.
It is, isn't it? I know. I was just inspired to put it on this morning, and when I did, I was like, "Oh, that looks so pretty."
It's so cool. Wow.
Sparkly.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, if you're not seeing this visually, y'all, Ashana is in the foreground of a background of how many?
105 alchemy crystal singing bowls.
Yeah, it's quite spectacular to view. So if you are listening on audio, you might consider going over to YouTube and just to get the full visual effect. But yeah, you've been pretty busy. You released a book.
Yep.
Yeah. And the book is about just like helping people understand crystals better and play. Like, is it geared for people to play it themselves, or is it more just about like, here's what you get when you experience crystal singing bowls? What do you think?
Well, let me just start it out like this. So I started writing this book. I actually didn't start writing a book. I had no intention of writing a book. I wanted to just do a little thing that was a little tiny ebook that was maybe about 20, 30 pages long to give people who were just starting out some basics and some tips and create a couple of videos for them and just have it be, here, free. And then I sat down with myself and said, well, I probably should write an outline of what it is I'm going to say. And I realized that I had 30 chapters.
Wow.
I know. And it's because I am one of those kinds of humans that I want to want it to be thorough for people. I want to be able to give people not just the tools, not just like a little smattering of stuff to say, okay, here it is, get you started. But I wanted to give people a comprehensive background on sound and vibrational healing with crystal singing bowls. And the more I wrote, the more I began writing for crystal bowl players in general, regardless of their level of expertise. And so the book kind of took on a life of its own. And then, of course, I had to put in stories and experiences and photographs. I mean, one of the things about this book, I mean, you can't see it, but it is so visually gorgeous. I mean, it's just
Oh,
like,
wow. Yeah.
it's we went nuts. And so what I tell people is, because
It
they say,
looks like a beautiful brochure like quality,
it's
like a
so,
playbook when you go to a musical or something, but thicker.
oh, way
Yeah.
thicker. I mean, because it's 160 pages.
Right.
But, you know, crystal singing bowls are so visually stunning
God, that's
that
gorgeous.
to give people the experience of the bowls, I couldn't limit it to just text. And so what's happened with this, which is so beautiful, is that we began putting together the book. We started putting all this imagery into it. And then, of course, I said, well, we have to have, videos that go with this. And so we put in probably 6 different videos that were really spot on to help people in terms of learning how to play and hear certain things that I was talking about. And then I just finished recording the audiobook version of it. And throughout the audiobook
Oh,
version, we have the sounds of the bowls like everywhere.
oh,
So
wow.
it's me reading the book and sharing the stories and the instructional guides, but then you have this environment of sound. So what we've essentially done is create not just a manual for people, but a full sensory experience about the bowls. So we have in here the history of crystal singing bowls, a brief history of sound and vibrational healing. So people who are playing bowls actually understand that they're part of a lineage of sound healing. Because so many people, it's remarkable, especially people in the West. They tend to think that when they find sound healing, they go, "Oh, this is brand new."
Mm.
It's like, oh, I just discovered this, therefore it must be new. And instead, and giving bowl players a context where they understand that they're part of thousands of years, that they're like the tiny tip of the iceberg at the very, very newest place of its formation, with background of mantra and drumming and didgeridoos and vocal sounds and tonings and all the other things that you know about so well, and that you and I have been a part of for so many years. So this was to contextualize that for people and really help them feel like they're part of something even bigger than they ever imagined.
Mm.
So that's just a taste of what's in here.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know anything about the history of crystal bowls. Do you feel like telling me a little bit? I don't want to like completely, obviously people should go read the book if they're interested,
Oh,
but like the did crystal bowls exist in this state like we're seeing here with the ones that you have, um for like I imagine their shape must have evolved, or can you take me kind of into
yeah.
that world? I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I totally can take you into that world. It's a really interesting story. You have to go back about 60 years, okay, and think about the national laboratories, okay, where like Los Alamos National Laboratory and other national laboratories like that, and uh, crystal singing bowls came as the cast-offs from the semiconductor industry to force grow crystals. And this was done, it's still used to this day, these crucibles, crystal crucibles is what they were called. They would put gem silica inside a crystal crucible, and then they would put it into a vacuum sealed chamber, and then they would apply intense rotations of heat and pressure to mimic the growing of a crystal. And out of this, you would get these beautiful, pristinely clear crystals, which were then sliced literally by a laser thin. And these are the materials that you would be putting in your computer chips, your phones, your all kinds of things, because of the properties of crystal, which we can go into, but we won't go into right now in this story. So somebody back in the 60s, could have been 70s, just came upon one of these and had the sense to tap the side of it, and it made a ding, and had the sense to kind of go rah, 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 and went, whoa, this is really cool. It makes a sound. And so what initially began was the people starting to find and play and then resell. It was like a perfect recycling tool, recycle cast-offs from this industry. And then there were companies that started out at some point in time. I don't know who was the first. And they started out actually manufacturing these crystal crucibles and selling them as sound healing instruments.
I remember you telling me about this, actually. It's like all coming back to me. I'm not sure if it was recorded on the podcast. It might have been at another time, but so I'm glad that you said that, because people will get to hear it. But that made me think that idea of going around a bowl is kind of like that fun thing we see people do with cups with different water fill it.
Yes.
Do you think that's why?
Well, like look at what I think it was Ben Franklin, had the glass harmonica back in the 1700s. Okay. And yeah, there's a glass harmonica, and it literally was played by applying water to the rims of glass, and it would create these really eerie sounds, kind of like what's the instrument called?
Theremin.
A theremin.
Yeah.
Sound like a theremin. And if you go to YouTube, actually, Porter, you can look up glass harmonica, and you can watch people playing outstanding, complex classical music pieces on these instruments, and they're beautiful. I mean, it sounds beautiful. So whoever figured it out, probably was thinking also of the metal bowls, the metal sound bowls, the Tibetan.
Right.
Right. And those are cousins. They're certainly cousins to the crystal singing bowls. But those original instruments were actually very heavy. So you asked about the differences now and then. So they were white. They were all white. They only had white, and they were fairly thick in their width of the bowl. And when you chimed the side of the bowl or tapped to the side of the bowl, it kind of went clank. Okay, because you just didn't have the resonance. The materials weren't thin enough, they weren't refined enough that they would provide the kind of resonance that we're used to hearing now. And some point in the 90s, I think it was in the 90s, a company called Crystal Tones began to create what they call the alchemy bowls, and these are those. They're so much more refined. They're lighter. They're angelic in their sound. Well, actually, the precursor to the alchemy bowls were what do you call them? The ultralight clears and the ultralight frosteds. And they were the clear version of this bowl without any application of other elements or stones or metals, and the frosted of that. And then based on those bowls, they began using precious gemstones, minerals, and metals to infuse the crystal, the gem silica, or to actually apply it on the exterior. And now we have this, and we have beautiful practitioner bowls, which are handheld bowls where you can carry them and direct the sound however you want to do that. And then we have bowls now called super grade bowls, which are incredible. And they are the latest generation of crystal singing bowls. They're 100% pure quartz crystal. All bowls up until now
Wow.
are 99.992%. There was a certain amount of impurities that had to be in the gem silica blend, but that the super grades have taken that to a completely new level. And that means that when listening to it, the entire organism, entire energy field receives the sound. There's nothing holding it back. So that's a basic orientation to the history of crystal singing bowls and where we are right now with them.
Wow. What has your, I imagine it's fairly long, but my thought was, what was your learning curve with these bowls? Because I would imagine the way that you approached them when you first encountered them is different than you approach them now.
Oh my God, yeah. I tell you honestly, there were times when I would send people running and screaming from the room when I played. I swear, in my early years. I mean, think of all the mistakes you can make with a crystal singing bowl. I made them all, and I tell my students, I made them all so you don't have to. So, yeah, you overplaying, driving the sound, not being in relationship with the bowl. I would have to say I would probably put spiritual arrogance on the top of my list. Or sonic arrogance, yeah, oh my God, I did all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's really very, very different. I mean, I've been playing now, it'll be like, I started in 1999 to what do we have there? It's like 24 years almost.
Wow.
Next year have been playing 25 years.
Wow.
I know. We should have a celebration.
You should, yeah. What is that when you're married and it's 25 years? Is that silver?
That's a long time.
I know they have like different elements. So.
I don't know. I don't know if it's silver.
Yeah, I can't, don't quote me on that. But I know that there's like a different metal or stone that's for different landmarks, which might be interesting. Although I don't think you have silver singing bowls, do you?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
When you make the platinum bowls, the platinum is included in the platinum is silver.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so there is some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, silver bowls, gold bowls, copper, Tibetan copper, titanium. What else have we
Well, so you
got?
have all the anniversaries in your.
I even have a palladium anniversary, and I don't think they're in one of those even exists. There's all
Like when
kinds
you've been doing it for 1,000 years.
then it'll be a miracle.
I'm wondering like what or how you can teach, because I would imagine that, and I think you've said this to me before actually, I don't think I'm coming up with this, but that there's a space that you need to be in as a practitioner in order to, it sort of amplifies your being, right? The bowl, like when you play it, it's amplifying what you're being.
Absolutely.
So how do you teach that?
How do I? Oh, that's actually a really beautiful question. Well, there's so many little qualities that are inherent in coming into a place where you are in relationship with your bowl. And that's a big part of it is first of all, helping people move out of the place where they're objectifying the bowl itself. It's very easy to look at an instrument. I know you play keyboards and harmonium, and what else do you play, Porter? Is it those two?
That's it. Yeah, I play like 4 chords on guitar. I would not
Yeah.
add that to my list.
Okay, so yeah, I know that's the way I feel about my guitar playing too. But it's so easy to take an instrument and just use it as a utilitarian thing. But then there's this whole other place when you come into relationship with that instrument and you actually allow its soul to emerge. I've had experiences, and I talk about this in my book, where I had a very profound experience when I was recording The Infinite Heart. And I was staying in a mother-in-law's suite at some friend's house while I was in Los Angeles, while I was in the process of recording. And after a long day of recording, I was lying in the bathtub, just, brain toast, because I'd probably been playing bowls for like hours and then singing for hours. And, there wasn't anything I could do except just be cross-eyed and quiet. And I moved into a very profound altered state. And I wasn't aware of it until I opened my eyes and everything in the room had turned to light. And I could see the bedroom from where I was sitting in the tub. And the bed was light, and the wall sconces were light. The rug was light. The chair was light. The bathtub was light. The mirror was light. And I kind of like blinked my eyes. And then I received a clairaudient message that shared with me that everything in the material world exists as light and is in service. And when I looked at the bed, I nearly wept. In fact, I probably did, because I realized how tenderly the bed was holding my body, and how the walls were there in support and service so that I had shelter, and the floor gave me something to walk upon, and the rug the same. And it was this knowingness that came on a soul level, that this is true for all of creation. And if we bring ourselves into the mix, and we can actually see ourselves as being in service to all, and being in relationship to all things as living consciousness, and not assuming that because it is in a different form that may not speak to us the same way as a human consciousness would, that does not make it any less than, any more important, any more significant. And that it was like, once I had gotten the message, then the experience receded. And I remembered a story that I read in Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi. I don't know, did you ever read that book?
Yeah, that was one of my first books that I read. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, not ever, but spiritual books. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd read it many times. And he has this precious little, tiny little story. It's maybe 2 lines in the book, but it had always stuck with me. And he talked about the little rug next to his bed.
Oh, okay.
And how endeared and how grateful he was for the little rug next to his bed. And then he also talked about, it was a story that one of his students was retelling at some point, where, or she was quoted, where he was walking along the hallway in Mount Washington or Encinitas, wherever he was, and he leaned down to pick up a thread that was on the carpet. And he asked his students, please take care of this, because he was so attentive to his environment. And it's that kind of, the preciousness of this microphone that I'm speaking in, the beauty of this harp that's next to me, how grateful I am for my water bottle and the straw that serves, for the pen I write on, it's like the rug I'm sitting on. And it's actually moving a student out of that consciousness of objectification, and creating relationship with the bowls as living consciousness. This is like step 1 of many, many steps.
That's step 1. Wow.
Like
This is an
one.
advanced training.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a training in developing conscious awareness of when you're playing, and when my students work with me, we shift their playing and help them shift their energy until they're actually sinking way deep inside of themselves, and then they have the experience over and over and over again of what it feels like when they're playing from a place of deep connection to basically being in the head.
Mm.
You can just kind of be up in here, or only to hear in your heart,
Mm.
and you're not fully embodied. So there's just like multiple steps, and when you do that, the playing shifts dramatically.
Yeah.
Because all of that energy now, the fullness of one's energy, is now getting amplified.
Yeah.
And like with anything, when you're learning an instrument, or you're shifting the way you may play an instrument that you've played a long time. When you have another person sitting with you that's kind of been there, done that, and is way ahead of you, or somewhat ahead of you on the journey. And I can look at somebody, like, literally, and I'm not trying to exaggerate here, but within 5 to 10 seconds know exactly where they are inside their playing. And be able to then say, okay, this, let's work on this, and then watch them shift. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
That made me think, as you were explaining the objectification of objects or instruments, the way that we treat our voice too.
Oh my God, yes.
That there's a way of utilizing the voice that where it feels more like a bright and shiny object, or like where you're actually using it as just a vehicle of expressing that connection or that connectedness. Yeah. Which I hadn't ever thought of in that exact way before, so thank you.
Yeah, but if you bring yourself fully into your body, your voice is no longer going to be this disembodied thing that you use in order to achieve a goal.
Yeah.
And whether that goal is just communication or singing a song, but you can sing from your head, or you can sing from the fullness of who you are. And it's like, how do I move into the fullness of who I am? And so much of that, really, when we don't do that in our singing or our playing, and it doesn't really matter whether you're playing piano, whether you're playing bowls, whether you're playing cello, when there is unresolved trauma that's held, and it's sitting energetically in the chakras, and it is informing the tensions that we hold, the tension that we hold in our body, it will reflect in our sound. So I was reading an article about the Alexander technique, which was something that was used a really long time ago. It was super, super popular. But in Alexander technique, there was very, very helpful for classically trained musicians to help them release unconscious layers of tension so that they could open up their playing to new levels. And where is that? I think where the Alexander technique stopped is, where is the tension actually originating? That's underneath that. That's that unresolved trauma. So if you find yourself, when you're singing, if you find yourself like this, or you find yourself holding your voice back, if there's tension in the jaw, or if it's in the shoulders, or if the posture isn't is caved or contracted in some way, it affects the sound that comes out. And then the message is perhaps not as free as it could be. But
Yeah.
then the beauty is for the singer, there's a whole process of uncovering that. That's part of the journey of being a singer. And so how beautiful that we love singing, because singing teaches us about ourselves, and singing gives us a pathway, a spiritual pathway for self-discovery. So, it's
Yeah.
the same thing with the bowls. It's beautiful.
Yeah. When you are working with people well, not working with people, when you are playing for people, I how do you feel or do you have a sense of the receptivity of the environment? Like, I would imagine, because you can project as much beauty and sound and whatever, but the actual reception of that gift can vary, I would imagine, from room to room. Does that affect you at all, or is that something that you just sort of go, well, what they get, and what they don't receive, maybe next time, or maybe they'll get in some other way?
I think you have to do that to a certain extent. I mean, as an artist, I mean, you like walk into a room and you're singing, and you're looking at somebody that's looking at their watch. or, or I can't tell you how many times I've been in, a concert situation, and watched, like, a dozen people walk out of the room for whatever reason. And I've come to the place of understanding that I'm not responsible for how they receive it, if they receive it. So many times I have done events where people have walked out, and while I'm playing, and I'm going, oh my God. And then only to find out later that they had to go to the bathroom, they had to make a phone call because mom, there was this illness in the family, there was a child that needed to be picked up,
Right.
blah, 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 and and having had that happen enough times, I realized that, it's not mine to project on what is going on for other people. My only responsibility is to stay inside of myself and maintain my connection with source, with my soul, to the best of my ability in the moment, to stay focused and present, because I can make up a whole lot of stories about what's going on that have no basis in reality. And that just becomes a distraction. So in one sense, I'm responsible for their receptivity, in terms of, am I playing well? Am I showing up to the best of my ability? Have I practiced? Do I know what I'm doing? Those are things that, as a professional artist, we need to actually be paying very close attention to all the time. And then there's this other place of going, I am not responsible for how you receive this. I will show up for you and hold this space as impeccably as I possibly can in this given moment, with the understanding that I'm absolutely human. I will do this from a place of love and support and service. And then, I'm just going to kiss the rest up to God, Goddess, Creator, all that is, divine intelligence, however you want to call it, and all the souls that are present in the room, and the angels, to say, you handle the rest. I did my part. And then...
I had this visual that made me aware of this dynamic in a new way the other day, when someone who was helping me brought up this concept of moving targets. I was like, moving targets, because there's something in this. And so I was imagining myself as like a field, and constantly trying to throw arrows at these moving targets. And what I realized is like that this was sort of imagery for what we try to do when we try to control how other people like receive us,
Yeah.
that it's always moving. And the reason it's moving is because they are in charge of their own field and
Yeah.
they have to, be in their field. And I can't, if I'm focused on that, I can't be in my field.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's fun. It's fun to see things in new ways. I think even if you've like already,
Mm-hmm.
that's already a concept that, it's not like that was new, but the way that I saw that was new. So I thought that was fun.
I like that idea. I really do, because if you think of them as moving targets and they are responsible for where they are going, then you can literally just be shooting blanks all the time.
Right, exactly.
Like all your energy just going.
Yes, the futility became very obvious.
Like, it's like, so maybe I'll just stay here. That's far more efficient.
Yeah.
And really musically, in terms of sound healing and music, then when you're in resonance with someone who's doing
Mm,
whatever they're doing or saying whatever they're saying, then you're going to come together. Those moving targets are going to be like, a little bit
mm,
magnetized
mm.
to your own resonance. And then when they received, or when they move on to the next thing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's a part of the piece too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that idea of build it and they will come, sort of,
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But you're building it, I mean, and everybody's building it. Whether you're building it unconsciously or unconsciously, you're still
Right.
building it. You're magnetizing through your energy field, through your magnetic field and your energetic field. You're going to bring those vibrational frequencies that are going to be compatible, that are going to enhance or complement your natural resonance
Yeah.
of your field. And so people are going to come in, like you and I are talking today, because there's natural resonance right here. The people that are listening are going to go, let's go listen to Porter and Ashana. And they're going to come in. And then when they're done, they're going to go away. you know,
Right.
just like that.
That image that you described of seeing everything as light is such a powerful one to reflect on. I can't say I've ever had anything exactly like that, but it reminds me of, I've gotten really into quantum physics, like the concepts behind quantum physics. And what's so interesting to me is I'm like, why didn't I know about this sooner? Like, it's like all the things that we've been talking about in the spiritual, realm or whatever, how um, we impact things with our thoughts and our feelings, and how we create this image of our reality, or law of attraction, or things like that. Like, it's all in the science that
Yeah.
no one is yet, well, not no one, but like that sector of society has not really understood how to embrace. They're like, okay, we know this, but what do we do with it? Like,
Yeah.
and
It's a jump. It's a jump, because it's I think you've got to move out of the conditioned mind believing that life exists in here or in here.
mm,
And we create from here, and our life literally is a reaction and not a creation.
mm,
So
okay.
so there's a paradigm shift that is slowly taking place. Slowly taking place. I surely wish it would be faster. But I'm not in charge.
There'd be so much less creative material, I guess, if it were taking place faster.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, do we have to do this again? Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that our life as a reaction. Yeah, that's that moving target thing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, who am I? Oh, wait, I have to react to this. I have to react to that. I have to react to this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's become so prevalent with social media. You feel like you have to react to everything, or people feel that they have to react to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
all the time. It's like,
that is really true. In fact, we even call them that, reactions.
exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Call them that. So I like this, I don't like that. I found myself scrolling the other day and just going, I was scrolling on Facebook or something like that, or Instagram, and I was watching myself do this and going, my God, billions of people around the planet are like, I like this, I don't like that, I like this, I don't like that, I like this, I don't like that. And I was like seeing like this massive consciousness focused on their phones going, in seconds, nanoseconds, and thinking that this is what it is to be in relationship with something.
Mm,
It's like, whoa.
yeah. I like this. I don't like that. The funny thing about it is that in social media, as in life, so it's sort of crazy to me how like parallel these realities are, but whether you like it or you don't like it, it's getting more attention as a result of your reaction.
Yes.
Like because we think, oh, I'm going to dislike this, it's going to go away. No. YouTube has now decided that this is a great video to show somebody else because you just you reacted to it, or you clicked on it, or you know,
Oh my
found that it
God.
was worth your attention.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, they're calibrating. The algorithms are actually looking at if you like this or if you don't like this, does this serve somebody else? And
Yeah.
that's really crazy scary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why it's so easy to go negative too, right? Because people love to think that if they dislike something enough, it will go away. And that's great for the algorithm because they're like, oh, this is gonna be a really popular video. Everyone wants to hate it. or post or whatever it is. It's really interesting. I mean, we created it. We created this social media or cyberspace that is like a super fast paced representation of our
Brain.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and amazing because
Yeah.
nobody really understands how it works. I certainly don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, just along those lines, I was one of my assistants was helping me and was talking about doing like a little sound healing video, and they put I know I couldn't believe this. She puts on 17 seconds of a bowl sound. Do you know how long 17 seconds is? It's like
Not.
a blink of your eye. It's like 17 seconds. And when I think of like bowl sounds or healing music, it's like, I don't think of it in terms of 17 seconds. I usually think of it in terms of at least, 25, 45, a minute, 15 minutes. But this sound, it was like, here, take a breath and just pause for a moment. Okay, you're done. Like, oh my God, this help,
Was this supposed to be like a short for something or like a TikTok
Yeah, it
video or something?
was.
Okay.
It was supposed to be
Yeah.
a short. And I'm like, oh my God, where are we? What is going on with us that we can't even take like 3 minutes, to
Yeah.
just take a breath and relax the mind and rest,
Yeah.
you know?
Probably not a lot of people though are going to TikTok to relax their mind and rest
No,
though. So
I
we
get
probably
it.
have to find
But this wasn't TikTok. I misspoke. It was
or
a YouTube
YouTube. No, I'm not
short.
sure you said that. I was just assuming.
Well, I could have said, I know we have it on TikTok too. So I'm like, oh my God, can we at least just make it 59 seconds? Anyway, but I think this is one of the reasons why sound healing is so important now and why it's trending now. I think people's nervous systems are just fried.
Yeah.
And they need stuff that's going to take them out of that, what would we call it? The metaverse. We want to take them out of there and give them a place to land that is soft and nourishing,
Hmm.
instead of like constantly in beta mind.
I just thought of something kind of trippy actually, is that when you're in that metaverse space, you're like in a dream reality, and then you come back to this reality, which is also a dream reality, but like with that layer removed. And it's, but what you're really trying to get to is like an underlying reality. So it's almost like we're creating like compounding dreams that make it like,
Wow.
if you were to think of it as a game, right, it would be like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's like level 2, you know? We're like
Oh my God.
yeah,
But
like
then
how do you get out of that one?
you know, use the mantra, the key to unlock you, the crystal bowl in your treasure chest.
Right,
Like,
right.
oh my goodness.
Play for at least 17 seconds.
Yeah. And you'll have moved up. You'll have opened the magic gate. Oh my God.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It sort of makes me wonder what we might come up with next to distract ourselves from like base reality. How hard will we make it? Yeah.
Well, but thank God, we have beautiful tools and practices that we can use
Yeah.
to just put this on pause, our world on pause.
Yeah. It is interesting though, as you know, you're talking about having to make a 17-second video as a sound
So,
healer, right?
yeah.
Because it's like you don't live in that space, but you're
No.
gathering from that space. And not that you have to gather from that space, but you know, if you were to want to gather from that space, I think we're all sort of trying to gather from that space, like you have to come up with a way that can be a point of connection, but that's
Exactly
all,
right.
that's also going to bring, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we've been working on, is like your language is perfect. What's the point of connection? Help people come in and say, oh, I'll at least, let me explore this.
Yeah.
They are really little treasure nuggets, divine breadcrumbs that are sitting in the TikTok world or wherever it is, follow this. Click on this. Open up to your own quiet moment of peace. What's that?
It is like a what's that? It's like it's really hard to explain to someone what they're going to get from what you offer when they've never experienced it before.
Yeah, so you have to give them an experience.
Yeah.
And when in social media people have the attention span of a gnat, it's you've got to like land it in 17 seconds. Oh, it's pretty. That sound was nice. Maybe I'll go here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll make that connection. So it's just honestly, it's a different world than I grew up in. I know I'm saying my age generationally, I'm 66 and I'm proud of it.
Lovely. Wow. You look amazing.
Thank you, sweetie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. But
testament to the sound healing, right?
No, it's a testament to a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's not just sound healing, but that's part of it. Music, music, sound, love,
Yeah.
shifting the frequency to be willing to grow and learn, heart space, so many things, so many things.
I would imagine that your outlook on aging is different from a lot of people too, though. Is it?
Yeah.
Like, do you, well, yeah, no, tell me about that.
Well, I have read this from a number of people that are in my generation, who are conscious and I have to use that word carefully because I mean, we're all conscious, but people who are taking the time to really look deeply inside of themselves, practicing self-inquiry, with some kind of contemplative or meditative or healing practice that they're doing. And we all say the same thing. It's like, yeah, I recognize that the body may be getting older, but I love who I am now. And, when I reflect back on Ashana in her 20s and Ashana in her 30s, I am so grateful that I am who I am in this moment. Do I wish, my body looked like when I was in my 20s? That's a really good question, because when I reflect back in my early 30s, I was actually anorexic, and I was struggling with an eating disorder. And so, do I want that? No. Do I feel better in my body now than I did in my 20s? Yeah, way better, way more connected, way more in tune, more nourished, not afraid of food or eating. So that was a piece of it. But again, we all kind of say the same thing, and that is that the person that's living inside is ageless. And so I've watched both my parents pass, and I've watched them pass with immense struggles with illness. And I have, other friends who've passed, and family members who've passed from dementia or Alzheimer's, or, different kinds of issues. And there's like a mindset that says that as we grow older, we're going to get really sick, and then we're going to die, and it's going to be awful. And we also have a very dear friend of ours, and my husband and I, who's 95, walks 2 miles a day, is as clear as a bell, clear as a tack, whatever that expression is, and who is consistently giving, making a difference in the world in his own way. So it's, how do we approach aging? I do not see myself slowing down anytime soon. I love the fact that I'm more conscious of my body and what I feel my limitations might be in this moment, but I'm also constantly looking to see how I can improve that, how I can take care of myself better. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a naturopathic cardiologist this morning, and he said something really interesting to me. He said, Ashana, he said, you are a trailblazer for your generation, whether you're aware of it or not, because we don't know how successful, highly successful women, when they get to be a certain age, are actually going to manage physically, mentally, emotionally. Because now I'm the generation, really the first generation, maybe second generation of women that are highly educated, entrepreneurs, musicians, that have, whose mothers laid the trail for us to say, I want to be super successful in what I do. And, let's just see what I can create in the world, and what my life will be like by doing that. So what he was saying, this doctor was saying to me was, we know what it is for men, but we have no idea. He was honest. He's a naturopathic physician, and and a board certified cardiologist at the same time. There's only like one or two of them in the country like that.
Mm.
And he said, we don't know what women like you are going to do and what's going to happen in their bodies, and how, they can be in a loving relationship and a successful businesswoman and a successful artist. And it's like, this is breaking, in some ways, it's breaking new ground.
Mm.
So when you ask me, how I look at aging, I guess I'm figuring it out. Because there are not all that many women that I know of. A lot of the super successful entrepreneur women that I know, they're all younger than I am, right? They're in their 50s that are moving at that level. There's a generation directly behind me. So, and then we have amazing women like Vera Wang and and all the actresses and the celebrities, but they have a different, they have a different support system that helps them to do what they do. So what about the tier that's not the super, super, super celebrity with, how does that tier live, thrive, So it's a great question. I'm finding out. That's probably not the answer you wanted.
Oh, I mean, there was no right answer. That was a great answer. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
that's interesting because it honestly shocks me sometimes that people feel that they're going to deteriorate. I'm like, oh, wow, people think that. Interesting. Like I have only experienced better and better and better and better. I mean, I was not healthy in my 20s. I was not a healthy teenager, so I've just learned how to take better and better care of myself. It just seems to be getting better, and sure there will be wrinkles and like other gray hairs and things like that, but I don't think especially the gray hair, I don't think of that as a bad thing. I'm like bring it on. I love this is like my wisdom showing. But yeah, I think that yeah, I've never asked anybody that question. I was just curious because you brought it up. So
well, it's an interesting thing because when I turned 65, and in the United States, when you turn 65, you go into the Medicare system. And this is honest to God, all of a sudden, like literally overnight, I started getting stuff in the mail talking about, my cemetery plot.
Oh no!
I'm not kidding. Seriously.
Wow.
Your illness, your legacy, because you're going to die. Then, and it was, you need this extra insurance to pay for the nursing home and assisted living. I mean, it was like all in the mail. I just started getting.
So they sell your address to like the funeral homes, and that's kind of the idea, right?
Mortuary, with two people smiling on it. Get your plot now, and I'm like, wait a minute.
You're thinking I'm going to look so good in that plot.
Well, actually, I was thinking I'm getting cremated anyway, so why take this,
I know that's
my
the other
ashes
thing.
into the ocean,
Right, right.
But it just was mind-boggling to me how the medical system, let's not go there, but the bureaucracy that runs the country and the consciousness behind the bureaucracy that runs the country, immediately when you reach a certain age, they're preparing you for sickness and death.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with preparing anybody of any age for death,
Right.
because we're all going to sign that ticket and put it, give it to the conductor on the train. We're all going to get there, and it is going to happen. And how can we be at peace with that? How do we come into relationship with that? And there's it happens to 5-year-old children, it happens to teenagers, it happens to 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. and on ups. It's not something that is age specific, but this was so like literally, I mean, my birthday hit and the mail started coming. I was like, wow. And so then you take the whole consciousness of the collective, and the collective, instead of saying, my goodness, I'm 65, with God willing, I've got 20, 30 years ahead of me, and I can be amazingly productive. How can I be more healthy, more vibrant, so that these years that I'm living are the best of my life? Because now I have the wisdom to back up, to serve, to give, to nourish, to nurture, to share. And that's not what you get. You get like, okay, countdown to hospitalization. It's like, oh my God.
Right. Well, that's a peculiar assumption too, that we're all going to that we're going to die because we get sick.
Yeah. And the sickness is going to be a long, and
yeah,
go to the nursing home, and then they always say, here's your prescription cards, and here's,
right.
oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
It's really,
Yeah, it's interesting.
it's really, really interesting. You're programmed for it in this.
Yeah.
You're programmed for it.
Well, and I would imagine if you spent most of your life thinking that you are your body,
yes.
There
you go.
That was then bingo. When it starts to deteriorate, shit.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely smack on, Porter. Thank you. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, you spent your entire life thinking you were your body. And that's like, just I'll circle back to crystal singing bowls. This is why I love them so much, because one of the gifts that you have in experiencing sound healing is that it helps you move out of that conditioned mind into a sense of connection, of the spaciousness of yourself as a multidimensional being, with your connection with your soul becoming tangible, becoming a visceral experience. You feel yourself as not the body. You feel yourself as infinite space. You can feel yourself at times as infinite possibility. You feel yourself, the quietness of your mind, just becoming very real, because all of those thoughts of the conditioned mind begin to slow down, and that starts to happen within minutes of listening to the sound. So important, so yes, if you're so identified with the body, then the practices that can help us unidentify, I don't know what the word unidentify, to do that.
It's all up for grabs. I think yeah.
Those words, undo them.
Yeah.
And then, different kinds of mantric practices, sound healing practices, meditation practices, breath work practices, yoga, tai chi, qigong, all that can help.
Oh my gosh. I just had this thought, because the first time that I heard mantra, it was Sanatam at the Golden Bridge. That was my sense of it, was that it was a space. It was a house, and I wanted to live in that house. And how do and that's so interesting, because when you were talking about the crystal bowl, I was thinking of like the sound of it gives you something to anchor in, or not like not like one pointed, because you're talking about a whole space, but like gives you another body almost to be in, right?
Exactly. It's an access point. It's an access point to other dimensional experiences but in time, right? So you can call it a portal, you can call it an access point. I have to tell you this story. This is so fun. My husband, when we first met, I mean, we'd probably known each other for about a month. And I said to him, do you want to feel what it's like to play a crystal bowl? or not to play with, but do you want to feel what it's like to feel the sound of a crystal bowl? And, kind of like a lamb to the slaughter, he just goes, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. Right. And my husband, you have to know, he's a native Hawaiian healer. So he's native Hawaiian. He's very like, when they wrote the word grounded, they wrote it for him. So in the body, solidly in the body, anchored on earth. I mean, he trained with the Maori in New Zealand. He's like, boom, right? He's little, but he's like that. So I put this crystal bowl in his hand. I said, now you just hold it like this, hold your hand flat. And I put the bowl on top of it and I started to play for him. It was a sunstone bowl. And I played and I played and I played and I played and I watched him and I watched him and I watched him and he was like going. And he goes, oh my God. After we finished, I said, so what was that like? He goes, there was nothing to hold on to. He said there was absolutely nothing for him to hold on to. And he realized that he had to anchor himself. I think actually what he said was he anchored himself into the sound so that he didn't feel like he was going off all over the place, or he anchored it into his breath, I think. But he had never had that experience before where he was like within like a minute and a half. And he goes, this is where you live?
Oh my gosh, that is so perfect.
It was so funny. And so he always tells people, he said, she's like a balloon. I'm the one who holds the strings. But after, 12 years together, we've been married 12 years. And that anchoring, of his grounding energy has been so good for me. It's been so healthy.
Yeah.
To now I feel like I have more, I have a strengthening in my ability where I can sink that down and really feel into my own body and be into my own body and be in this place.
Wow.
Wow,
that's such a great story and a great place for us to conclude, perhaps. Oh, it's 1:08. How fantastic is that?
Oh, awesome.
Where I am. Would you like to tell everyone how they can find your book, find your live events, find out more about you?
Yes. Well, here's the book. We'll just show a nice little beautiful picture of it.
Yes. And it's called Crystal Singing Bowls, The Angelic Sound of Healing, Relaxation, and Spiritual Awakening.
Yes, by Ashana. So you can find the book on Amazon. Do get the print version. Don't spend money on the Kindle. It never works. So the print version is beautiful and you will be so happy that you did. You can also get a deluxe edition on my website, along with all of my music and offerings and lots of information about the Crystal Singing Bowls and my new single that's dropping in about 6 weeks. So yeah, a whole brand new album coming out. All of that is at soundofashana.com.
Okay, and I will link that in the show notes so that people can easily click on it.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, all those cool places.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ashana, for coming and sharing your beautiful wisdom. And everyone, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for tuning into the podcast, y'all. Please like, subscribe, rate, comment, whatever the platform you listen to podcasts on offers you as a way to let its algorithm know that you're enjoying these episodes. That really helps. Also, there's some links in the podcast description notes that allow you to support the podcast in a way that benefits you and us. So please check those out. And if you'd like to stay in touch with me, you can sign up for my mailing list at portersinger.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.